Hi guys, and welcome to Dreaming in Fibre. I am Sarah, your host from sarastexturecrafts.com. You can find the show notes for today's show at dreaminginfibre.blogspot.com. And there's Patch. So what have I been up to since I last spoke to you? Well, I went to see The Hobbit. Was really great to see the final ending of that film. It's a bit of a shame to, not have it. It's become a bit of a Christmas tradition in our family. So, yeah, kind of bittersweet the ending on that one, wasn't it, Patch? Eh? But we did see the trailer for the new Star Wars film, so I'm hoping that will replace the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit going forward, and that will become our new Christmas tradition. Well, for at least I apologise for the camera wobble there. We have an assistant director who feels that the shot is not quite perfect. She needs a bit more of my rubbish that I've been trying to hide, so apologies for that. She's a bit nosy today, aren't you, Patch? She's down here. She'll probably pop her head up in a minute. Patch, do you want to come out of the way? No, not really? Not really? Yeah, I love you too. I do, I love you too. It's true, I love you too. Yes, okay, good girl. You're going to stay right there, are you? Okay, that's not perfect, is it? It's not perfect. But, apart from that, not been up to a huge amount. It's been hugely busy at work, so, my, my time in review is kind of short this week. But I hope that you've had a lovely couple of weeks, whatever you've been up to, and you've started to feel a bit Christmassy. I apologise for no kind of Christmas hat or Christmas decorations in the podcast today, but it's been that busy, and we'll get to that when I start to talk about the shop, that I just haven't really had the opportunity to get any decorations up, and it's now the 17th of December, so yeah, kind of getting a little bit stressed about Christmas preparation, but today is my last day of work, so also quite pleased today. Once I get through today, I've got a little bit of work that I have to do tomorrow, which isn't a huge amount, and again I'll talk about that in the shop section, but yeah, then I shall be off until the 5th of January, so it's a nice long break, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am to get that break this year. I mean, you can probably see the dark lines under the eyes kind of tell it all, I think. So let's move on to shop news. So shop news this week, I don't have any updates to show you. I've got a new pattern that I wanted to show you. Also want to have a quick word about the new VAT law going forward in 2015, January 1st it starts, and then kind of where I'm at with preparation for Craft for Crafters. Sorry, I'm looking down, my show notes are down there. So preparation with Craft for Crafters, which is coming up at the end of January, and also a kind of hint of a coupon that you can get your hands on, and also sort of January sales and all of that kind of stuff. So let's plough into that. Let's have a look at the release of my latest pattern. So I'm going to show a picture here. As you can see, it's called the Fisherman's Net, and this is the cowl. If you have been following my blog, craftsoftexture.com, then you will notice that I've been writing on a month-to-month basis a series on gradient spinning and how to use gradient tops, and different techniques that you can try with your gradient tops. And this is part of that. I wanted to release, there's going to be a secondary pattern that will come out in January now. You right there? Been a bit nosy, a bit rustly, aren't you? There's people watching. They might have earbuds in. And I just really wanted to give you some inspiration of things that you might be able to knit with your gradient spinning. So that's that one. Talking about the patterns, we'll move on to a bit about VAT starting January the 1st, 2015. If you haven't heard what's been going on or following my blog on craftsoftexture.com, then you may be unaware of the new EU VAT laws that are coming in January the 1st. This is going to make a change, A, if you're a buyer, and B, if you're a seller selling to the EU. If you're a buyer in the EU and your EU member state charges VAT, then on digital products going forward from January the 1st, you will be liable to pay VAT. And there are no exclusions on that, and that's the same if you subscribe to a service like Netflix to watch broadcastable content. It's the same if you buy advertising space on a blog, for example, and so on and so forth. So for you, in terms of Sarah's Texture Crafts, it will immediately affect the way you buy patterns from me. If you go to my website, sarastexturecrafts.com, you'll find that I have a pattern page. This used to be linked direct to Ravelry, but because Ravelry's system will not allow for charging of VAT currently, it means that I've had to go and find a third party. So let's backtrack a bit and talk a little bit more about these changes. Go to the blog craftsoftexture.com, and there'll be a couple of posts there. If you look, type in VAT into the search bar, you'll get a couple of posts, and that will give you a more in-depth view of what I'm going to discuss. Obviously, I need to give you a disclaimer here that I am in no way a trained accountant, and I'm not a lawyer either, so my sort of review of this information is very much based on my learning and assumptions, so please go out and check out this information for yourself. If you're a seller, this means some pretty big changes, and I'm not going to go into it too much, but for micro businesses, particularly for all your indie dyers and people like that, it's going to mean massive changes. Some changes that have already proved too much for some small businesses, and they've actually closed their doors. So essentially, the VAT law suggests that from January 1st, if I sell a pattern to somebody in France, I have to charge them VAT that is at the rate in their country, and I have to give that money to the French government. And that happens for every single EU member state that I sell to. So if you are a US pattern writer and you're selling to anyone in the EU, you also have to collect VAT from that person's country and at the rate of that person's country and give it to that country. So as you can see, quarterly filing, because VAT is filed quarterly, will become a nightmare and will affect masses of businesses that it currently didn't affect. And these changes are partly brought in to stop the those huge companies, huge big box companies and internet companies that reside in, say, Luxembourg or a country where there is no VAT charged, but actually sell to, say, the UK. And this has been, particularly here in the UK, this has been a huge topic for discussion within the press, and it's something that the government has had to act on, and so the EU have come together and made a covering law. It's actually, in a way, it's good that they've done that, because it means that they've also had to set up a system by which we can make that kind of filing a little bit easier. It's called VATMOS, VATMOSS, and that is the value-added tax multi-country one or multi-taxation one-stop shop, and it basically is a system that I would need to use to be able to do all of that quarterly filing, and hopefully the idea is that that system should be able to work out the VAT that's due to each EU member state in one easy system, so that I don't have to worry about keeping up to date with who charges what, because that's a big problem. VAT here in the UK is at 20% currently. In Ireland it's 23%, but if you go to some parts of Europe, I think Holland is something like 15 or 18%. So you can see price wise it also sorry, gonna have to move my feet a bit. It's also making life a little bit difficult in terms of, you know, do I charge for VAT within those prices, outside of those prices, you know, how does it all work? And there are lots and lots of things to consider. I guess the main gripe for small businesses currently is that, for example, here in the UK, to have to register for VAT, I have to earn over £81,000 a year. That's a takeover. Sorry, that is a my annual takings, not my personal wage. And currently, lots of us micro businesses come under that, so we're not VAT registered. This new law has a 0 rating, so it means that the moment you sell one pattern, you have to be VAT responsible for that pattern. So it's caused, you know, kind of massive kind of uproar within the micro business world. It's also caused a massive headache for small businesses like us who don't have websites who can sort of do that back-end reporting that would make life easier. It's a very complicated thing, and it's become a bit of a headache, really. The lovely people at Ravelry have worked together with loveknitting.com, which is a UK knitting big box company, who have very kindly offered their services to be VAT responsible on our behalf. So that's why I'm choosing to sell my patterns through loveknitting.com now. I'm hoping by the end of this week that I will be able to make that switch over complete. It does mean, I think, that I will still be able to have Ravelry downloads on Ravelry, but it does mean that instead of going through the Ravelry cart, you will go through the Love Knitting cart if you are in the EU. We kind of, and I say that looking quite vague, because not all of the details are worked out currently. I know that Casey and the rest of the Ravelry team are working extremely hard to do their best to help out, and also Love Knitting are doing their best as well, because all of this has come quite late on, because the other sort of headache and outrage is that as a self-employed person, I didn't know anything about this change, which actually the VAT-MOS guidance was published back in June, which indicates that the law was passed to come into effect sometime before then. So those who were registered for VAT were told about it, and those who weren't registered for VAT weren't told about it. And of course, at a 0 rating, everybody is affected. So I found out in mid-November, some considerable months later, and obviously with a month and a half to make any changes at all. For some people, this is meaning that they have to change their websites, they have to find new providers. I mean, fortunately I don't. My website, I can tell you now, took me 2 months to build, and since then I've built on and on and on top of that, so I can guarantee that I'm looking at least 3 months work to, you know, if I have to do this again, if I ever have to make that switch again. So it's caused people to close their doors either temporarily or for good. Other people you know, they do the, you know, the kind of pattern writing or the digital ebooks and that kind of thing purely as an on the side thing. It's not a main income at all. And for me, certainly, I think in the last year, January to January, I've probably made, or from January till now, I've probably taken about £100 in terms of pattern sales. So it's really not worth, if that was my only business, the effort of going through the whole, all of the VAT loops. So it's kind of madness. There are going to be some people who, unfortunately, will just decide not to go ahead and not to continue working, which is going to be a huge shame because, you know, as I've always said, not trying to blow my own trumpet or anything, but it's the indie companies in every single industry that are the most creative and the most sort of fashion forward, if you like. It's the big box companies who look to those smaller companies to see where they might be able to take their new product. They, you know, and that's not all cases, but, you know, in fashion and in this industry as well, the creativity tends to come primarily from those smaller micro businesses who have the time and the ability to be able to offer highly creative products, usually at a higher marked price. So we might see some indies fall by the wayside, which is going to be a big shame, but the changes will be manageable, so for most of us, I think. So it is going to be a case of following your favourite designers or your favourite indies, and finding out how they're going to manage the change and what that means to you, so that when you come to your shopping cart, you know whether to expect the VAT to be included or excluded from the product price. I will have more news on that as I finalise everything and come back in January. It does mean that I'll take a couple of days out of my Christmas holiday to put any final bits and pieces into to sort of order, as it were, so that I'm up and running from January the 1st. But yes, so you could see these tired eyes as well that haven't been helped by some pretty shocking news that I've got some big changes coming up, and I kind of needed to be aware of them a little bit sooner. There's a lot of work that's had to have been done. So if you have you know, sort of favourite indie out there, then, you know, by all means send them to the direction of either this podcast or my blog, so that they can sort of read for themselves about VAT changes and things, and, you know, try and get themselves organised and ready for January 1st. As I say, it will affect everybody who sells worldwide digitally, and they will need to file for anyone who they sell to within the EU. I'm hoping it won't put some of the people outside the EU off from selling into the EU. I think it might, but you know, we'll have to cross that bridge when we hit January the 1st. The slightly scarier news is that there is talk that these changes might come into effect for tangible goods. So that means all of this kind of stuff and everything else you buy from 2016 as well. So that's going to make life significantly more complicated and will mean that people like myself can't use third parties for that, because currently the reason why I'm sort of opting to go with Love Knitting is that they're going to be VAT responsible on my behalf. So it means I sell the pattern to them, and I essentially get commission as a designer, if you like. So that's not a VAT-able sale because I'm selling business to business. The changes only affect business to customer, so it means direct from me you'll no longer be able to get PDF downloads, but there are indirect ways in which you can still get my stuff on PDF download. I have also, to sort of preempt that, I have decided to offer paper patterns as well via the website, so check that out. If you're in the UK, the shipping is like £1 a pattern, and that will help me cover the postage and the mailing envelope that comes in. My prices will increase ever so slightly, and that will just reflect the fact that I will have to, if it's a paper pattern, I will have to get cardstock and also the plastic sheet to pop the pattern in for safe travel to you. And for the digital, it means that I have to pay Love Knitting a transactional fee. Yeah, all of those costs will be reflected in a slight increase, but we'll come to that in January. So I hope that kind of made some kind of sense. I've realised that I've completely gabbled on, and I probably haven't started from the beginning and done it in the right way. But I'm absolutely knackered, and yeah. So I'm hoping that, you know, what I will do to make life easier is in the show notes at dreamingandfibre.blogspot.co.uk or .com. I will pop the information about the 2 posts that I wrote on VAT with the links that I found for other references to do with this VAT change, all in the show notes for this episode, so check that out and point people in that direction, and hopefully that should sort of make much more clear and much more succinct what I've just gabbled on about. Apologies, yeah, as I say, knackered. So that's kind of it for shop news. I don't think I've got anything else pressing to tell you. There are still spaces for Colour Club open, so grab those if you can. They will remain open until sometime in January. Check out sarastexturecrafts.com for the full details on that. The final thing to say is I'm having a little bit of an exclusive newsletter member sale. So if you are a newsletter member, you should have had a message from me already today. If you subscribe up until the end of Christmas Eve, then you will also get a copy of that particular newsletter, and it has an exclusive coupon code just for you. So you must obviously remain a newsletter member to be able to claim that. All the other details, I should say, are on that coupon code. So have a look at that and get yourself signed up. So that's it for shop news. We'll talk about the blog. So on the blog this month, apart from sort of talking about the VAT changes and also sort of talking about whips and all of my usual kind of stuff, I also decided that I would open from January 1st a craft along, and that's going to be in the Crafts of Texture Facebook group, which is, I've realised, the easiest way for you guys to sort of craft along with me, because not every one of my customers is necessarily a Ravelry member, and obviously not everybody wants to spin, knit or crochet, so it's a very broad open craft along. The idea is that we are doing something just for us, so pick a skein, pick a bump of wool, and whatever you want to do, you will get chance to sort of craft along with us. And again, you have to be a member of that group. It's easy enough to join. Once you go to the Facebook page, you press join, and as soon as I can, I'll pop along and accept your invitation, or accept your application, I should say, and you'll all be signed up and ready to start posting. So it's, as I say, it's really broad. I would like it to be something for you, because we've spent a lot of time, probably if you're like me, crafting along for other people pre-Christmas. So it's an excuse to either get some older projects for ourselves finished off, or start something new just for us. I am planning on knitting a shawl, and I'm going to use, again, you have to use something that has got wool in it, and it can be any craft. So if you're sewing a wool jacket, then that's absolutely fine. I am using these two yarns, so a better picture here. And I'm going to do a colour, a striped shawl, I think. I want to work up, you know, see a block of this and then a block of this, and so the idea is that this will graduate as we go up the shawl, and this will sort of create be a visible stripe throughout. Right down there, pouring at the floor. Right, it's okay. That's it, you stay there. So do pop along and join with that. And that's kind of it for blog news. So we'll have a look at what I'm working on. So I've got a few things that I am ready to start. So I'm going to show you this one. If you are a watcher of Little Bobbin Knits, and she is littlebobbin.blogspot.com or .co.uk. She's having a Christmas Eve sock cast on, and it's going to be a knit along where we knit a pair of socks, because every Christmas Eve she casts on a pair of socks, so we thought it would be fun to do together. So I'm going to use, and I'm going to insert a picture here, a skein of my Fruit Punch yarn, and I think that's going to make some really nice colourful socks for me. So I've got that coming up. I am also working on two sample projects. This first one, I showed you the skein last time. This is the skein of my Shine base, which I'll insert a picture here. And this is the beginnings of the wave pattern by Kristen Finlay, who is skein. So she is an indie yarn dyer, and you can find this pattern on Ravelry. I think it was for free actually. She's got some lovely patterns, and they work quite nicely with variegated or semi-solid. This is a semi-solid, and so far you can see I've just started. I won't give too much of the pattern away, but it's working up quite nicely. Once I got my head around how to do this eyelet pattern, I was fine, I was away. And the only reason why that took me a little bit of a while was because, you know, since I've been, probably since September, October, really all I've worked on is socks, and I've got to a point now with socks where I just pick it up and knit it and watch the TV. I didn't even have to think about it. So having to suddenly follow a pattern, my brain slightly hurts. But it's fine. It's a nicely written pattern, very easy to follow. I have no reason to think that it won't make for a lovely project. So I'm knitting along on that and enjoying it. Not long started it, as you can see, and that's in the little bag that I showed you either last podcast or the podcast before. Then from there I am knitting in my Star Wars bag. I'm knitting a hat from my barber pole yarn, which I'll insert a picture here. This is coloured denim. That last colour on the Shine base was silver. Was silver or pewter? I think it was silver. Honestly, I do know what I make for a living. And this is the Runway by Woolly Wormhead. So that's a picture of that there. This is quite a big pattern. I'm not used to several pages for a hat, but what I like about it already is that there are multiple sizings on there. Everything's well laid out. There's a really good abbreviation section, and there's also a really good section on alternative cable cast-ons. So alternative cable cast-on and a cable cast-on. So it gives you sort of multiple options of how you might want to knit your hat. Again, as I say, when you've sort of got, I won't again show you too much, but instructions that look like that, I was kind of scared when I haven't been looking at my knitting for a while, because I knew it meant concentration, and that's one thing I haven't necessarily been able to do. But once you get to a certain point, it becomes really quite intuitive, and it's just about making sure that you you know, keep an eye on your numbers. So I've got it on small circular needles, so you can't really see much now, but you can already see that there are sort of patterned, sort of textural sections coming on there, and I'll be able to show you that better when I've finished, because I'll be able to take a picture with better light, really. But that's working up quite nice. The yarn's lovely to work with, and I'm really pleased. That's my barber pole base, as I said, so that will be a little sample for the shop, really. Also something nice for me to wear. I do like my hats. So I'm working on that. Finished projects. I finished a couple of pairs of socks, and I'll put them here. I don't have them physically to show you because I gave those both to my mum. She asked me if I would knit some socks and gave me some yarn. She gave me back a skein of my own yarn to knit her socks with. That was quite nice. So the first one was full leaves, and the second one, actually, I said to her, do you really want two of the same sock, or would you, because I can, out of the 100-gram skein, she's got the same size foot as me, a size 5, a UK size 5, so it actually meant that I can get two pairs of socks out of that. So I said, would you rather me substitute one of my own skeins for that second pair, and we can do a kind of a swap that way. So that's what we did. So that second sock yarn is opal sock yarn, and it was called Congo Sally. I think it was part of it's part of one of the series that they do, and it might have been Birds of Paradise or something like that. But really enjoyed knitting those. That was the first time I used opal as well, and yeah, really liked it. I recommend it. I did have a couple of people on Instagram say that they found opal quite scratchy to wear. As I've not got them to wear, they've gone to my mum. I can't say sort of accurately whether that's going to be the case or not for me. I suspect not, because I've been wearing my Drops Fable print sock yarn, and that feels in the knitting slightly more sort of wool scratchy compared to the opal, and I felt that the opal came up much softer, so I'm assuming during wear that I will find them perfectly fine, because I don't have a problem wearing the Fables Drops print, so we'll see. But I hope at some point to be able to cast on a pair for myself, because I do quite like how they came out. Or I might choose to knit a pair of mitts, and I'll probably use my simple mitt sock pattern, not sock pattern, my simple fingerless mitt pattern that I've got up for free. You can find that on the blog Crafts of Texture, and also a link to that on my website, sarastexturecrafts.com. So that's it for knitted whips. I did finish a skein of yarn on the wheel. I finished it a while ago, but sort of set it and had it dry and up here to show you. So I don't think I showed you this last time. I know it's been up here for a while, but here she be. And I'm going to insert a picture here. And this is 100% Shetland, and it's in my colour Bohemia, and I've done a 2-ply, so this is 200 grams. I'm not sure on the yardage yet. I haven't got that far in my life. I will check it at some point. I've actually got another bump. I've got another 100 grams up there to spin up. So as soon as I've spun that, that will probably be the best point for me to sit down and work out yardage, and then I can work out what I want to knit for it. I would love to have enough for some sort of cosy shawl type thing, but we shall see. We shall see. At the moment, I'm just loving the skein. It's nice when you get those big skeins and you think, oh, I'm going to get lots of yardage out of that and going to have a nice project. And it was really enjoyable to spin. And actually, the other thing I liked about this was that I actually had these 2 bumps of fibre, or sorry, the 3 in total bumps of fibre. I dyed the last Fibre Fest, which was when? I'm going to say coming up to 4 years ago now, probably maybe 4 years in August, so 3.5 years, and had the bumps sitting up there and in several other places over that time. And I have to say this was a dream to spin it, because it was all braided as well, and I know that people often worry about things compacting, and this just hadn't compacted at all. It was beautiful. So don't be too afraid if you do have something in deep stash, but do, as I always recommend, do always take a good look at it. It may just mean that you know, if it looks slightly compact, that it might be worth putting it through the drum card or to bring it back to life. But yeah. Anyway, there we go. So really pleased with that. Really, really pleased with that. Really pleased with that. And that's like the, you know, the most sort of fast spinning for ages, really. So I just wish I had more time. I really do. Anyway, so that's that. The final thing I want to talk to you today is my stash. So I hadn't really planned on buying anything pre-Christmas, because you never know what you're going to get in your Christmas stocking, right? But I did, because I had to move all my patterns to Love Knitting, most of which have finally been approved today as well. Just have to go and tinker with a couple of other things, but practically all on there, so I'm quite pleased about that. I decided before I put a pattern up there that I would test their service, just because I didn't want to start putting my patterns up with a company I wasn't familiar with. And whilst I have shopped from big box companies before, I wasn't aware of how they worked, and I wanted to make sure I was using a company that I felt confident in using. So I did a test order, and I was only going to order one thing, and then this happened. So let's crack it open. These all sock yarns I haven't tried, and they're all, I think, yeah, they're all Regia, which I've heard good things about, in the same way I've always heard good things about opals. So I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to insert that here. And then let's go through these yarns. So this is Regia Extra Twist Merino Colour. It's a premium line. This should be a 50-gram skein, I think. 50 grams, yeah. Which is 210 metres, 75% virgin wool, and 25% polyamide. And this is going to come up with like a splattered sort of, I think, stripe effect, or maybe a marl. I've got a couple of pictures along there. I think that's probably going to be a slight marl, but I think that'll be quite nice. The second one is going to be for Darren. Shh, don't tell him. And this is Regia, the Vermont colour. Sorry, Vermont colour even. How tired am I? I can't even speak. 75-25, exactly the same. I think it's just called a 4-ply base or 4-fold base. And this is a lovely colour, and that will come up to, if you can see that, can you see it? Yeah, slightly. That will come up to a striping effect. And this is like a sort of stony colour, 2 shades of blue and a sort of wine coloured red. So I think you'll like that. And I've not really got into the whole self-striping sock thing yet, so these are my first sort of forays into. So I've got 4 other smaller skeins which will just be for me, and this is from, I've got one designed by Cafe Facets, which is going to make some stripy socks, and this is in like a sort of foresty green, a lighter green, a citrusy green, and several blues going to navy. I'm quite liking that one. Then I've got a couple of Erica Knight designs. These are the Cafe Facet is an ombre stripe, whereas the Erica Knight ones are design line jazz colours. So they should kind of stripe, but in a different sort of stripe way. Again, 75-25. This is like a berry colour, so sort of whites right through all the pinks to fuchsia and like an almost scarlet as a high contrast. And then this one is like a brown with a fawn, a cream, and a slight orangey colour, a wine, and like a fuchsia colour. And again, they'll probably knit up in the same way. And then the final one is by Kristen Nicholas. It's called Garden Effects Design Lines, and that should knit up in a slightly sort of space dyed stripy effect, and that's all these bright, fresh, spring, gardeny sort of colours. And I'm really enjoying those in the skeins, and I can't wait to get to knit on them. So to get work over Christmas really hard, get all these other projects off the needles, and hopefully I'll have one of those on the needles going into January when it will all become quite busy around here. So that's it for the stash. That's it for my whips, for the shop, for the blog. That's it from me, I guess. So I'm going to leave it here today. I just want to wish you guys the most amazing Christmas holiday and a fantastic new year. I hope you'll join me again in 2015 for another year of fluffy fun. I want to thank you for all of your support this year. You guys mean the world to me. Don't forget to go to the website and sign up to the newsletter so you get your special Christmas coupon. And I think that's it. So thank you ever so much for watching and dreaming in Fibre this year, and I hope that you'll enjoy the next podcast when it comes 2015. Until then, happy Christmas, guys.